Hey, White Sox fans, it's Brett Ballantini here, lucky enough to host once again for the 13th time. It's Southside Sox Down on the Farm, our podcast that is devoted, well, almost exclusively to talking about the White Sox farm system. And our almost exclusive farm writer is Darren Black. We pretty much can't ever get him to quit. We say, hey, Darren, you need a break. Take a day off. I said, nope, there's games to watch. There's prospects that you'll never maybe hear of that I need to dig into and think about and analyze. So as much, believe me, I know all of you at home are like, man, Darren Black again. They're working him to death. But hey, I'm contractually out. Listen, Vox insists, because Vox does care about the well-being of all of us. So they insist, man, give this guy a blow. Nope, he's just back at it. So thanks for hopping on again. Pretty much almost 13 for 13, Darren. Thanks for joining me again.
Yeah, always glad to be here. Not on a Monday, but pretty close.
Yes, and listeners, dear readers, occasional viewers, let me just tell you, we have sped up number 13. Not that you haven't heard enough podcasts from Southside Sox over the course of the last week, but anticipating an off day for Monday, we've actually completely thrown an absolute wrench in the system. Darren's working on a nightly update, a monthly update, a weekly update. Maybe he's got something else going on in his life. Okay, let's just pretend he does, like one other thing going on. He has to eat, a little bit of sleep, and now we're even pushing up a podcast just so we can provide you the podcast content first thing in the morning on a Monday, starting your work week off with a headed Darren Black rocking it for you. So Darren, I guess to lead off, I want to talk about, we just had the trade deadline pass, of course, and we had frequent conversations during that trade deadline. So thanks for also hopping on for that. I want to talk about the bevy of prospects the White Sox acquired at the trade deadline. Oh, wait, Darren, hold on, wait. We didn't acquire any prospects at the deadline. We're a real team.
The rebuild is over. The rebuild is over.
Celebrate. There were no prospects. Okay. Whew. Well, this sort of screws the whole show up, Darren. I don't really know where to go with this. I guess maybe we'll talk about the prospects we traded away.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting theme.
Yeah, it doesn't feel right. And I don't even know if we're going to be able to release this podcast because it's been 4 years of just doing that other kind. So how can we do this kind? Yeah. It doesn't feel right, Darren. I don't think this is actually going to get to print, but let's just pretend, humor me here. Let's talk, I guess, maybe from most regarded to least. I think they traded away 4 guys. Nick Madrigal, of course, the headliner in the Craig Kimbrell trade going to the Cubs. I'm a little bit shocked that was their choice. But I guess they look at Nick being young enough and still considering him sort of like top 100 prospect quality. And what's their thinking and how will this hurt the White Sox?
Yeah, sure. So on the Cubs thinking, I'm sure they're trying to go from a team that was pretty, I don't even want to say 3 true outcome because Javy Báez he was like a 1 true outcome kind of a player. Or I guess 2, because he did strike out a ton. But they're just trying to find, because now what I'm guessing is going to be their middle infield is going to be Nico Hoerner and Nick Madrigal, like basically 2 like scrappy ball players that probably aren't going to hit a ton of balls out. Like maybe when the wind's doing its thing over in Wrigley and blowing out, like maybe Nick Madrigal will hit it over the ivy. But what they are hoping they're going to get is whatever defense that was highly regarded out of college and in the minors. I know some people are like, well, he was only good with defense in college. Like, no, he had a gold glove from the minors before he came up. So whatever defensive issues he had, seems like it was purely major league problems. I don't know if he just wasn't ready for the stage, which wouldn't make sense because he was in the College World Series frequently, but it was weird. But what they're getting is a guy that's going to bat like 300 every year. If he's not going to strike out, if at all, which is probably what they're looking for, a more balanced lineup than what they had previously. But that's kind of the guy they're getting. He's not going to play again this year, obviously, because he's hurt. So hopefully he's back and healthy next year. And then Codi Heuer, I'm sure they're hoping that he's a closer. Because when he was coming up through the system, he and Aaron Bummer, Tyler Johnson, Zach Birdie were all being talked about as potential closers. Obviously, none of them are for the Sox. They now have two closers that are none of those guys,
Right.
which is completely fine with me. Not that anything's wrong with Craig Kimbrel and Hendricks. That's just how baseball works. You got to get the free agency to plug the holes that you weren't expecting. But Heuer, obviously, he had his issues this year. He started out getting really unlucky, and then he just started throwing and not really walking people. And then he started getting lucky and then just walking a ton of people. So he's just had a really weird season. I like both of those guys. I think both of those guys are going to be great and critical pieces for their next playoff run whenever that starts, 23, 24, 25, whenever that starts. But Sox gave up two really good players to get a guy to win now. So all fine with it.
So from what you're saying, I think if I'm going to take the temperature of what you said, it seems like you are falling a little bit more on the conservative side than an average White Sox fan who has almost no problem with this deal. And I'm not saying you do, but you still see you have a real optimistic take on both of the players. So in a sense, this is set up to be a win-win trade for both teams.
Yeah, so I've any of the major trades so far the White Sox have made, even including the rebuild, I view most of them as win-wins. You could probably argue the Yankees one didn't really matter with like Rutherford, Tommy Kahnle, Todd Frazier going there. But I mean, Boston, the Sox got two fantastic pieces, and Chris Sale closed out the World Series win. Adam Eaton went to the Nationals, and we got Lucas Giolito, Reynaldo Lopez, Dane Dunning. Obviously, Giolito is fantastic. Lopez is, I mean, I guess he's looking pretty nice right now. We'll see how long that lasts. And then Dane Dunning helps you get another piece for the team right now. So it's just, and then the Nationals won a title. So any of these things kind of work themselves out, it seems like so far. Sox are giving away years, controllability to go and win this year and then run it back with Craig Kimbrel next year. I think it's a fantastic deal for everybody involved.
Boy, there's a lot of unity and harmony. I think you're just a little punch drunk, Darren, but that's okay. That's just me. It's just because I know you. It's because we're close. Okay, I got to follow up on one thing, and then we're going to still stick with the Cubs a little bit here. Okay, because I meant to slow you down here. Javier Báez as a 3 outcome player. Let me see if I got this right. Strikeouts, no look tags, and hamming it up, walking to first base. Am I close?
Yeah. I can't. I think it's The Athletic that does baseball player surveys. I'm sure he's going to be rated as the most overrated soon, because it's usually Bryce Harper, and like, it doesn't deserve to be Bryce Harper. He's usually really good. It deserves to be Javier Báez. How about that? He's a baseball player.
I like that MLB, when they send out their clips and stuff, I like how they talk about the concept of a no look tag as if that's like a special thing. I mean, a lot of tags are no look tags, especially when you receive the ball like 4 inches from the player you're tagging. I mean, I hate to say,
I do it all the time.
I don't have your scouting report any longer. Well, it's not handy. It's not in front of me. I can speak to mine, Darren, and I think both of us might be able to execute no look tags. Not on a major league field. I'm not saying that I'm as good as Javier Báez, of course not, but it's sort of like called a tag. But anyway, all right, enough Javier Báez. I hope we never talk about him again.
Yeah, a lot of middle infielders know how to tag base runners. is what my takeaway is. Some are obviously better than others, but they all know how to do it.
There's one guy that went to the Cubs that we haven't talked about yet because he was in the other trade for Ryan Tepera, and that is Bailey Horn. Now, we've heard from James Fox that part of the reason why that seemed like sort of a low price for Tepera was because the Cubs wanted to stay sort of in the good graces with Tepera. They want him back. They'd like to sign him back for next year, perhaps, or at least have a chance of it. So keeping him in Chicago and sort of I think, as James said, doing him a solid. But obviously, at the same time, if there was a much better offer out there, I don't even think the Cubs are crazy enough and so desirous of such players, wink, wink, that they would say, oh, well, forget it. We're just gonna make Ryan Tepera happy. So give me an idea of how you see Bailey Horn, just obviously knew the system's got a dozen starts or appearances under his belt. So that's a small sample size, but what's his ceiling? Is he a guy who stands a reasonable chance of haunting the White Sox anyway?
Yeah, so he was drafted last season in the 5th round in that really weird draft that was only 5 rounds, and he had the middle bonus. I think it was the first 2-round guys, and then Bailey Horn got a $150,000 bonus. And I'm guessing he probably would have been in Kannapolis last season, so he started the year in Kannapolis this season, did really well in Kannapolis, and then once he got up to Winston-Salem, he struggled. Like, his ERA went from 2.63 to 13.09. It's not fantastic. Now, a lot of that was because the first couple games he was like getting 1 or 2 outs and allowing 8-9 runs, which isn't fantastic. But I think his ceiling, he's a starter right now, but I think his ceiling is probably left-handed reliever in the bullpen. I don't think he's going to stick out there in the rotation. He's got a mid to high 90s fastball. Fine slider, fine curve. His command is a huge issue right now, which I'm sure they'll try to fix. But maybe he can just kind of hone in and become a 1-2 pitch pitcher with a lefty out of the bullpen. That's basically, I don't think any of us are going to be losing sleep over losing Bailey Horner, or not combine Nico Horner and Bailey Horn there.
There you go. All right. Okay. Okay, so then let's just address the one guy who didn't go to the Cubs in trade. Again, another prospect, and one that I initially was a little bit more aghast to lose, and then I realized, his time may have been running short with the White Sox anyhow. Not quite a Micker Adolfo situation, but maybe rapidly approaching that, and that's Konnor Pilkington going to Cleveland, a guy that it seems like the ceiling is perhaps a back-end starter, and of course, there's a lot of room below the ceiling there. He's a guy who seemed to maybe be a little bit lackadaisical in his progress until this year. And it seems like he's pretty much hit the ground running this year and maybe poised to take a step forward. So again, this seemed like of the 3 trades, the most win-win, maybe because I just can't acknowledge that the Cubs would get a win-win with the White Sox, but it seems like Cleveland got what they needed, and the White Sox got a guy for up to a year and a half, or theoretically longer, who can fill in and be a reasonable second baseman.
Yeah, Konnor Pilkington, I like him much better than Bailey Horn. I think Pilkington could stay in the starting rotation as a back-end starter. I don't think anyone thinks he's going to be an ace any longer. His velo is ticked up on his fastball, which is usually a good sign. And he was doing phenomenal this year compared to 2019. 2019, he really struggled once he got promoted, kind of like Bailey Horn, I guess. But this season, I shouldn't say he's a workhorse because no one's really pitching a ton right now because no one played last season, but he usually goes 4 or 5 innings, which is pretty good for these kind of outings this year. He's got a 3.48 ERA, and then the expected numbers look pretty good along with it. If compared to Bailey Horn, I'd be more upset with him, but Cesar Hernandez has got a 2-game hitting streak with the White Sox, so he's already beaten expectations.
I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but he can bunt. When he's asked to bunt, or decides to bunt, he actually bunts, and he can do it, which makes bunting much less objectionable. I mean, a big part of the objection to bunting, okay, yeah, giving away an out or whatever, but if you can't even do it, why are you? A different podcast, definitely a different podcast.
Yeah. But basically the reason why it was okay that they got rid of them is because he needed to be added to the 40-man by December. And there's really, if the Sox don't think he's going to be in any place anywhere near the starting rotation, there's really no point. So might as well just send him over there now. And if Cleveland likes them, they can add him to the 40-man to save him from Rule 5. If not, I'm sure someone will take him with the Rule 5, like one of the teams that just don't really care about winning whatever year that is. Because, he's not a terrible arm. 3rd-round pick, 2018. Someone's probably going to give him a shot, but the Sox have a glut, so they used him to get another guy that they didn't really have any backup for the next couple of years.
A running theme with the 2021 White Sox. And I think they're even running out of first baseman to plug in at second base, although apparently not, because Andrew Vaughn, a different podcast, Darren, Andrew Vaughn played second base, actually on purpose, intentionally in a game just a few games ago. I'm going to juggle the order here a little bit because we're coming right off of talking pitchers, which of course we dealt 3 away, including a couple, well, at least 1.5 starters. Do we have in the system any starters left? And I guess the follow-up question is, do we need starters if we seem like even without Carlos Rodon next year, the rotation is set 5 deep?
I guess if you're under the assumption that Kopech is going to be a starter, then you've got 5 right there. It's just, I don't know, with the Jimmy Lambert spot start today, I think a lot of people who want Kopech to be a starter figured that he should have been spot starting today so he can get some innings on. Because if he doesn't get like a decent amount of innings this year, then if he does start next year, they're going to do the same thing where they just kind of leave him on the IL for a long time and like pitch here and there, do some sides or some bullpens, and then just kind of keep his pitch count low. They're going to have to do the same thing with that next year. I'm also not a huge fan with Dallas Keuchel right now. Not that he's doing terrible. It's just if the trajectory that he's on right now probably doesn't look so great. Another year older, lost some stuff. But after that, it's Lambert and Stever. I'm assuming Lopez won't be on the team. So maybe they could sign just like a later back end guy. But they're still pretty set. It's just they don't have a 5th guy yet, which is probably a good problem to have, that you have at least the top 4 set, and then maybe Kopech fits in there, but it's not set yet.
Yeah, the White Sox don't seem to be good at this year. They didn't even really try to do that veteran back end guy, which I guess is better than getting a guy like Gio Gonzalez or some of the others. Irvin Santana. Oh my God, Irvin Santana. They've been sort of bad at it lately, so I'm not really sure what I want them to do. It strikes me, Darren, that even if you do feel a need to, it does seem like Kopech is on a track this year where, unless it's really like crunch time playoffs, you just don't see him getting a bunch of innings and really starting. I think he's sort of already so far into the role that he can't really shift. And what that says for next year, what's the worst case? He gets the 5th start, maybe every other turn. And then every other turn is, maybe it is a bullpen game, or you just rely on the rainouts that always come. It doesn't seem crazy that he can, because of this year, you're still gonna have to limit him, but I don't know if it needs to be so disruptive as he has to have a mystery hamstring ailment for 2 months so that, like he's preserved. I guess they can still do that, but of course, now you got 2 months of a 5th starter you got to find. Or, maybe
I guess I'm just thinking of this now. I am forgetting that Crochet is kind of in that mold. I know they brought him up really quickly and everyone was like, oh, he's just going to go the Chris Sale route. And I assumed he was going to start this season. But obviously he's not. So he could also do the jump there. Yeah. I'm not expecting that as much because he has a tendency to just, if he's doing poorly for a couple batters, to really lose himself for an entire inning that someone else has to save him. But I can see him being stretched out next year as well. So they have options. But I think most people would rather a free agent signing to kind of just settle everything down.
There's got to be a poster somewhere. Most people would like and there's a free agent is in there somewhere.
Yeah.
I wouldn't count on it. Don't hold your breath, Darren. So it's Kopech in the 5th, and we're going to just have to pray every other start. Okay, let's take a quick break because we got more stuff to talk about. Just sort of wanted to cover those starters and make my little snappy organizational comment about the fact they got no starters, but they don't. I mean, they got guys, and then there's a second wave. We haven't even referred to them, but guys like Matthew Thompson had a great start last night. So hey, that's promising. Hopefully you think at least one of those guys is going to move forward and be a strong performer in Birmingham as soon as next year. But let's take a quick break, and we'll be back to sort of wind up our farm report, a little bit more of a grab bag type of stuff with Darren Black. Hey, White Sox fans, we are back. It is Southside Sox on the Farm. It's podcast number 13. Darren Black once again with me, taking time out. He's getting the carpal tunnel was starting to kick in, so it's good he's getting this break. You see him, he's not feverishly typing. So he's probably icing actually, because he's got to get right back to it. He's got a nightly update. He's got the weekly update. He's got a monthly update, and like work tomorrow and stuff. So yeah, okay. I will try to let you, I'll try to bump you soon here, Darren, but let's jump into the AAA boondoggle we got going on with Micker Adolfo. We got Jake Burger. We're going to call Gavin Sheets sort of a bridge guy, even though he's on the White Sox for the time being and isn't necessarily going to get sent down when Luis Robert comes back, or if they decide to call Jake Lamb up. But let's talk Micker Adolfo first. He pretty much, we've referred to him, to Tommy Barbie's chagrin, time and time again, as a guy who's just not going to be with the White Sox next year. What's the best case scenario for the White Sox with Micker, assuming there's not injuries that create an opening for him in the majors next year? Is it he shows well here in the second half of the season enough to give a rebuilding team reason to say, hey, we'll give you something for Micker Adolfo, and maybe something even somewhat useful? Or is that even too much to hope for?
I mean, so I'll rank it as number one is he's just going to be DFA'd once that 40-man crunch comes down. Number two, someone would trade for him. And then number three, he's on the White Sox active 26-man roster. That's probably how I'd rank them. The reason why he being on the Sox next season is third is because they've got Gavin Sheets kind of solidifying his role as an actual guy that can take some outfield spots. Now there could be scenarios where he actually does, Adolfo does make the team just because of like a Yermin Mercedes situation with injuries. But I'm just going to assume everyone's healthy, and then Micker Adolfo is not on that team. He did pretty well in his first game, but he hasn't done so hot since. Not that like I'm going to base his whole entire career off of a week, but he's going to have to prove it this next month that he can actually do it against. I guess the better prospects are still in AA, but the trickier like guys with better curves, more crisp curves, sliders, changeups are all in AAA. Like the Mike Wrights of the world are all in AAA, and he's got to learn how to do that with breaking pitches. I guess everybody does, but especially him with his high strikeout rate. And the reason why I'm leaning towards DFA is because you can just kind of wait till he gets out in the open market, and a team doesn't have to give up anything to get him. Now maybe something could happen, obviously, if he does really well this next month and someone's like, I want to give this guy a shot, like Baltimore, Detroit, maybe even Kansas City. Cleveland doesn't have any outfielders anymore, so just kind of see where that goes. But I don't really expect them to be on the Sox after or going into next season.
What does Jake Burger have to do? There seems to be a logjam where, again, he's sort of behind Gavin Sheets, if only because they're somewhat equivalent right now. Gavin swings from the left side, plays a position, quote unquote plays, but has played it well enough, I guess, right field, plays a position where there's a little bit more realistic. I mean, I don't think we can expect the White Sox are going to sign a right fielder next year either. So, I mean, I guess it is going to be a free for all. And I think you've even predicted that Gavin Sheets could well be the right fielder, or that he might be the most likely right fielder next year, platoon or otherwise. I mean, short of injury, obviously, there's no room at third base. It's pretty unrealistic, especially with Cesar Hernandez being on the team, that he's going to be manning second base. Is he just a guy who has to continue to bide his time and look for that opportunity when there is an injury? Is he a guy the White Sox would think to more proactively move with a little more control of him?
I mean, I could definitely see him being moved, but because he still has options, I think it'd be better just to kind of keep him there and have him be a quad A guy. Same with Gavin Sheets. I think they're fantastic quad A guys, just to kind of keep going up and down whenever you need them. I think right now Burger is basically, so if Yohan Moncada, God forbid, goes down, knock on wood, I think Burger comes up, he's that guy. But if it's Cesar Hernandez or Leary Garcia go down, then it's Danny Mendick goes up. It's just kind of playing like Yahtzee or whatever you need to just kind of get where you need to get at the end with whatever guys you got. Because if Mendick is better in the middle infield. Burger has only really played third base, though he had a cameo at second that didn't go so hot in Charlotte, I think about a month ago when Madrigal went down. And I still don't really trust his defense, but if you're going to want a guy to play third base every day, it's going to be Burger over Danny Mendick or Leary. Even if they might be slightly better defensively, the bat just outweighs both of those guys' bats.
Well, and we saw him come up when Yohan had to sit for a few days. He didn't end up being IL, so it wasn't really expressly a call up to replace him at third base. But for a couple of games, he did get in right away because Yohan was banged up a little bit, and seeing the LSA Ramirez pained expression of every movement that guy makes on the field, he's always just one sneeze away from having to sit out a game. Even though he ends up playing a lot of games, he's the guy who looks most dead, who plays the most games. You just gotta love Yohan Moncada. And Burger isn't a guy who's, he's going to be way down, even though the corner infield is equivalent enough. He's still gonna be way down on the depth chart at first, because that's the one place the White Sox have every single one of their players can play first base. So he's just not going to ever see time at first base unless there's truly I don't know, something horrible. So okay, and then Sheets. He's the guy who's like in best position right now, and he's actually held his position. He hasn't flamed out in the majors to get dumped, and obviously being left-handed helps him, and fielding the position adequately helps him. He's gotten scooted around, playing some first base like today, doing some DHing, has done some right field. I imagine could go to left field if necessary.
And so plate discipline is just better overall. So if you need like a guy to just make contact, then off the bench, you'd prefer to have Sheets, or get on base, make contact, whatever. Burger has a tendency to strike out a bit much, and Gavin's got that figured out.
Hey, how cool was it, Darren? Gavin's a guy you've sort of been on the bandwagon of for a while, and you've spoken to him, you've done stuff with him for Southside Sox, and he's a guy you always, I think even before the season when we did this very first podcast, 12 podcasts ago with James, I think Gavin was the guy you even cited as being most excited to see what he's going to do in AAA this year. He had a big splash coming up, and he's managed to hold his own, in the majors. It's just sort of fun, personally for you to be able to sort of see that.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, because one of the things that I've always been saying is just wait till he gets the MLB ball, because the power just hasn't gone there. And now he's in the majors and had basically a 300 ISO. Not that that's going to stick, but like even in his limited appearances, like he's still like the same hitter. He's always got 10% walks, like 18-19% strikeouts. Obviously the power is different. His batting average isn't so high right now, but he's killing the ball when he hits it, like Yasmani Grandal basically right now. So it's just kind of cool. My other guy preseason was Tyler Johnson, so thankfully Gavin is keeping me up while Tyler Johnson is, I guess, still released, but I'm sure they'll re-sign him eventually.
In limbo, poor guy. What a strange tweet that was, to be like, I'm coming out of surgery and I'm released. But hey, you know what? You can't hold up on that, especially if there is a backdoor deal or handshake deal that says, listen, you want to come back, you're welcome back. Because they basically 2 years ago did this exact same thing with Ryan Bird. When I saw he was DFA, I was like, oh God, they're saying goodbye to Ryan Bird. No, he's just like, he's coming back. Okay, let's wind up with a couple other things. First of all, let's do a little thought exercise here, Darren. It came up a little bit, I think, in some of the comment discussions in all of these trades when addressing Cesar Hernandez, who I think is safe to say is in Chicago for 2 years now. So he will be with the White Sox very likely through the end of 2022, the season that may or may not be. But let's say he bounces because he's too expensive, or something else happens, or because guys in the organization are pushing him. We have a number of candidates. Second base is not their strongest position in the organization, but there are guys who have distinguished themselves. Jose Rodriguez, who we have speculated would move to third or second, actually has begun playing. I think he's played a game at third. He's played 2 or 3 now at second, and I think that's a recent development. Is a possibility of a guy who might be a push made, clawing at the majors by 2023. Romy Gonzalez is another guy, I guess, who comes up because you could just throw him wherever you want. He might be pitching next year. Are there, I guess, if we had to stay internal, Lord knows with the activity on the free agent market, either they're going to sign a guy who's not going to do well, or they're not going to sign anybody at all. So let's pretend they do have to fill internally. How would you handicap the internal options a couple of years from now for second base?
Sure. So I think they would look a decent bit better if you just went on MLB Pipeline and they did slash second base, because they've got a lot of slash second base guys that they prefer to have other people at a more premium position, but they're just not right now, at least. And so obviously Romy Gonzalez is probably the highest level guy that you start with. He's in AA. He is a fantastic hitter, hits homers, steals a bit more bases. I don't know if he'll do the same thing in the majors with like Major League Baseball having normal base running rules. But he's never had a bad season as a hitter, when we all kind of expect a guy that gets drafted and doesn't really get a huge bonus to struggle, and he just really hasn't. And then, so if you just go from there, go to Winston-Salem, then, or I guess stay in Birmingham. I forgot about Yolbert Sanchez. Yolbert Sanchez is, out of any of the guys, I'm going to say Yolbert Sanchez is probably the highest probability that he's on in the majors at all. Not that any of the guys won't be, but he's just seems like he's got a spot as a bench like utility infielder.
Right.
And so I could definitely see him coming up at some point. Yeah, I mean, even next year, if they want to, because I'm assuming Leary won't be on the team. I mean, that's a lot to say since he's been there for so long.
Exactly. He might have some deal.
I'm assuming he won't. And then probably, and then keep going down, because once you're at like a certain level, you kind of just assume that they would, like, Lenyon Sosa is in Winston-Salem, so I'm assuming he'll get a shot like once he goes up before Jose Rodriguez or Brian Ramos, which we'll talk about later. But Lenyon Sosa is another contact guy. He strikes out a lot more than Yolbert Sanchez and doesn't walk as much, which is kind of concerning, but obviously he's not as highly regarded as a prospect, but he's shown a bit more pop this season. I don't think he's going to make the majors in any way, but just like listed in the guys that could be there. And then Kannapolis is where you start getting the big names of Jose Rodriguez and Brian Ramos. Jose Rodriguez has been really steady this season. Like his first few weeks were fantastic, and then it kind of teetered out by the end of that first month in May. But he's basically been a slightly above average hitter most of these months, which is fantastic to just kind of be the same guy month after month after month, especially at 20, to just be that consistent. Brian Ramos has kind of gone down a bit, and right now he's a third baseman, but he's played a fair amount of second. So Jose Rodriguez, Brian Ramos, probably the two top guys. But Yolbert Sanchez, I expect to be there like much quicker and more assuredly.
So all that information is good, Darren, but what you're trying to say is because of all the experts we have on our staff, the guy you're looking at right now has been most high on Jose Rodriguez. Maybe you're trying to say I might know more than everybody?
Yes, Brett,
okay.
My boss, you know more than everybody.
Very well said. Let's move on to the final question, because it was about to get cut off. We have a little bit of movement in the system, and certainly deservedly so. Luis Mieses went down to Kannapolis and basically matched Jose Rodriguez and Brian Ramos swing for swing. Maybe was better than two of them. He really got his footing there, and now he's back where he originally started the season at high A, which again was seen as an aggressive assignment. Harvey Mendoza, another guy who went with Mieses down, is not back up, I don't think, but he's also been doing very well at Kannapolis, which is promising. You want to see these guys bounce back. What would you look for specifically from Mieses here for the rest of the year to sort of show, aside from the easy numbers that a dummy like me can say, oh, well, he hit 300, so he must be doing well. Is it a strikeout rate, his walk rate? What would jump out at you to say, okay, this guy's getting it, and he might even see Birmingham sometime in the next season?
Yeah, so I'm always going to default to plate discipline, because that's how you really know if a batter's seeing anything remotely like how you should. And basically, he improved his strikeout rate by about 10%, probably a bit more, going down from Winston-Salem. And I know I've talked about this before, but you expect whenever you're demoted to just do better. But like that, like 10, 11% in improvement in strikeout rate is just so big that it's something he worked on there, obviously clicked. It's not just he's going against worse pitching. And then Another thing is just to keep an eye on the line drive rate. You always want it to be near 20% because you do want to hit more fly balls than line drives because that means you're trying to swing for the fence at least. But going down from Winston-Salem to Kannapolis and those.
Oh, we have a frozen Darren Black, so I'm going to just pretend like I know what I'm talking about and continue Darren's thought in that, Macy's is a guy who is much more consistently driving the ball the way he needs to be doing. And a big thing, I think what Darren mentioned straight off was that the strikeout rate. I mean, even a high 8, aggressive or not, you cannot be striking out at the level that some of these guys do. And Macy's is why he got immediately, pretty quickly demoted to Kannapolis, where he could sort of get his bearings, maybe where he should have started in the first place. But the White Sox, you got to place guys. And without great falls, that really throws such a mix. And one of the things I was going to ask Darren as he leaves us, and I guess maybe trying to come back, so I'll just continue to tap dance a bit, because this is the fun part of the program. This is the what do you call it? This is the telethon portion. Okay, so this is where it all breaks down, this is where everything's just lying down, destructed. But the thing I want to still talk about with Darren is where the guys from this draft class end up getting placed, and whether or not guys from Kannapolis, who by and large have underperformed, certainly the pitching staff, geez, do any of these guys end up matriculating to Winston-Salem? Do you just have a logjam at Kannapolis, or you keep guys at Arizona who you might have put at Kannapolis just because there hasn't been enough success at the low A level? It's going to be interesting to see how stuff plays out. I mean, 20 draft choices, they signed them all, and they added another 5+ undrafted. And we've seen, I was talking with Darren before we started, at least 3 yesterday when I did the minor league update, 3 professional debuts, all undrafted free agents. For the White Sox. 2 did well and 1 did not. So I guess that's a ratio you want. But yeah, where do you put these guys? Because some may not play. Even the big guys may, Montgomery, Kath, I don't know, maybe they just just wet their beak a little bit, because in part, maybe there's a little bit of protection, a little bit of fatigue in play, and maybe you just want to give these guys sort of the training, sort of get their feet under them before they actually have to go under the bright lights or the hot lights in Arizona and perform. But at this point, you've got 20 new guys, 25 new guys coming into the system. And, some guys are going to be cut. There are a few promotions. We already seen some. John Park went from, interesting choice, but John Park went from Birmingham to AAA Charlotte into their rotation. Emilio Vargas, who has been going between the rotation and the bullpen at Birmingham, is now definitely a member. He's maybe he's the ace of the Birmingham staff. Now that Konnor Pilkington's gone, he's been terrific all year. What a great find the White Sox made in claiming him last fall. So it's just going to be interesting to see where, and I think the time is coming now, this next week or so. I think we're going to start to see more than just undrafted free agents starting to get some play. You're going to have to start to work some of these guys in, obviously, most likely at Arizona, but who moves up from Arizona? Who moves back up? A lot of guys went down from Kannapolis from Arizona. Darren Black's coming back to us now, so we will admit him and we'll see if he has the right password to re-enter the fray. He's moving, so I think he has the password. So he's all right.
I'm on my hotspot. But back to Luis Maeses. So I basically look for plate discipline whenever I can, and then the batted ball profile. And for Maeses, it's at 20% line drives right now, which means he's actually getting around on the ball. And he's not going away with it as often. The pull rate's a bit down, but he's centering it more. So that's probably, I guess you can kind of include that, because if you're a pull hitter, you're usually pulling it to your side or going straight into center, which is how you usually line up the defense. But that usually means that he's just hitting the ball better, since we don't really get exit velocity numbers from the minors. So that's just I would look for. He went 2 for 4 tonight in his first night back, which is fantastic, including a double. So hopefully he just keeps doing that. And obviously, if he does hit 300, I mean, that's a good indicator that he played well. But if he hits 260-ish, then those are other things to look out for.
as anticipating sort of our final topic here, and I managed to mumble a little bit about it, so pardon to the audience to hear all of this said by Darren in a much smarter way than I just did. But first, let me ask you, what is there a cap, and what is the cap on rosters in the minors? Is it is higher than, is it 30? Is it, or is there a cap?
I think it's different for the rookie leagues.
Okay.
But I think it's around 30. I have the number 33 in my head, but that honestly might just be the Arizona Complex League. And then AAA does have an alternate site roster,
okay.
I believe, because that's how they do the catcher, like catch in Winston-Salem, then go straight to Charlotte.
Oh, right, sure, yeah, the stuff that seems head scratching. Okay, well, I mean, it anticipates the question of, okay, we got 20 draft choices all signed, so they're playing, or they're in Arizona, or maybe they're in Alabama doing their training camp. I'm not sure when that breaks up. We've got at least 5, I think probably more than that, undrafted free agents, some of whom, I think 3 just yesterday in the update I did, made their debuts with the White Sox. So basically there's almost a full team of players joining the system. Some guys are going to retire, some guys are going to be released, some guys are going to matriculate upwards, like John Park from Birmingham to Charlotte, and you'll see some of that movement. But where are you going to put these guys? And is there a name among this draft class, or maybe somebody who's in Arizona now who's most intriguing to you, who you would tab to be moving up, or you just want to put under the microscope in Arizona?
So for guys that usually get, because obviously, again, we say this all the time, but they got rid of a minor league rookie team, so they don't have that kind of barrier there. So the first instance is probably just to look to Kannapolis. And if there's anybody kind of 24 or over, not really a prospect, just kind of there, that's kind of when you get the sense of, okay, they're probably going to be released. Now, the back end of that is the top 3 players that the White Sox took were all high schoolers. So they might not even really play this season, especially the pitcher. But if they are going to play, it's going to be in the ACL. They're probably not going to go to Kannapolis. I mean, you can just kind of look at Jared Kelly and see going from high school to Kannapolis was clearly not the best idea for him. But again, he was the first round pick, and a year removed from anything. They were placing people that needed to go, or they would have been. This year they have the excuse that they can just kind of leave them there, learn the professional system and all that. But I don't expect too many guys to go up there. But if you're a college guy that got a decent bonus, I think you're going to be in Kannapolis, maybe mid-August, late August, just throw a couple innings.
So one of the differences we're going to see this year, you'd anticipate, because Great Falls is gone, and you got to put guys somewhere, is much more often, particularly with the young guys and maybe the pitchers in a lot of cases, unless somehow they didn't have much workload in the season they were drafted, you're going to see guys in Arizona working out, getting reps, but maybe playing very little or not at all. And that's going to be something that's going to be a little different than we've seen, where that was probably very much an exception in the past. And now that's going to be where you might even have the bulk of your draft class really not playing, because you hit the ground running with a regular full season. You give the guys a little bit of a break. Their season after their draft season is when it's like, okay, start in Arizona, you hit it good, you're right up to Kannapolis, and that becomes sort of like the normal flow. Because right now it's like being thrown in the middle. It's just, there's too much going on.
Yeah, that's kind of how I view it. So for when I'm doing the monthly update, Matthew Thompson and Jared Kelly had rehab stints in the ACL, and where they just kind of, Matthew Thompson only pitched one time there in his like 3 weeks he was there or whatever it was, and Jared Kelly pitched 2 times. So that's just kind of how I view it. It's going to be, they kind of do some of that already. Like the catchers don't play all 6 games or whatever. It's usually like 2 and 2 basically. And I just kind of think that's just how that's going to go. Especially for this season, maybe next season after everything's a bit more normal, and they got the roster more figured out with the leftovers from last year, that you still need guys to play every day somewhere. But this year it's just an odd year. I wouldn't really expect the high schoolers to go to Kannapolis, but
and we talk a lot about the need the need for perhaps another team. And this experience might help the White Sox one way or the other determine that, because if it turns out there's just a bunch of guys just like kicking around waiting to take a lunch break because, you know, all they're doing is drills, and maybe that's not even productive for them, then maybe there's an argument to say, hey, let's field another team to get these right in, get these guys right active. It doesn't mean they're gonna have to get like another 25 undrafted free agents. They're gonna have to grab a few more undrafted guys, but you know, this is unique. They're never going to have, let's say, so many guys like standing around in Arizona, and maybe that's by design. Maybe that's what they want. But if that doesn't turn out to be productive, whether for their careers or just, I don't know, for the franchise itself, that could fuel you know, desire for even maybe a second DSL team, or certainly a second Arizona team. I guess that's something they got to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I would definitely support a second ACL team. I understand the Great Falls getting rid of thing because it's Great Falls, but a second ACL team would be my preference for what they do going forward.
That is Darren Black, our main minors guy. He does 3, I don't know. I don't even know how many days there are in a week anymore, Darren, but 3 updates a week. He does our monthlies, he does our weeklies. And yes, that is him. You can quote him, just like we've quoted him about saying Kannapolis would win the second half title. You quoted him as saying, yes, I would like to cover one more additional game every update that I do because I need 2 Arizona teams. You heard it, White Sox, you heard it. Even the guys who are most taxed by it are demanding a second Arizona team. Sorry, you're just going to have to do it.
Yeah. I take back that statement.
Yeah, I've got something to say to you after we go.
Yeah.
Woo,
unless
those are
they play in
long.
the afternoon, then okay, that's fine.
Yeah, right. If they play in the morning like the DSL, no problem.
Yeah,
You just tap that
fantastic.
in while you're like looking at tweets or whatever. But yeah, these can be some late nights. So, you know, rest in peace, Great Falls. But whew, from the carpal tunnel standpoint, don't necessarily miss you. Well, thank you for taking what amounts to 2 different calls and almost an hour out of your very busy evening already, Darren. But thanks for catching us up to speed on the trades all the way down to the ACL. Maybe one day we'll talk about the DSL. I'm not really sure it's necessarily worth it, but there'll be a guy who distinguishes himself enough to get some mention at some point. And we'll do this, I suppose, again in another week. And this time, maybe I'll call you on Monday.
Yep. I'll be here. I guess I'm here every day, but always Mondays.
Okay. And the signal is definitely much better on Monday. So this is all my bad for doing this on Sunday. So, you know,
Sunday
strong signal during the work week, not on Sunday where everybody's cooking out. Okay. Thanks, Darren. Thanks, everybody, for watching, listening, reading. As always, hope you enjoyed all our trade deadline coverage, and you'll have terrific minors coverage anchored by the one, the only Darren Jackson Black. For the rest of the year, he's got no choice. He's got to do it. He might even take on more days. I might give him my days. I might be like, sorry, Terry, you got to do it. I'm no good at it. I don't know anything. I'm no good at it. Well, anyway, thanks for listening, everybody. And we'll be back with you in a week's time. I think I'll call Darren. It'll be a Monday, so he'll be there.